So Canva is a really awesome tool, but what I often hear designers saying is that it's not a good option for book covers. And when it comes to just taking what's already there in the book cover design, I totally agree with them. But if you understand the basics of design and you know how to manipulate Canva, you can actually create book covers that don't look like they were made in Canva. And I'm going to try and show you how to do that today. I'm Elaine Canyon. I've worked in graphic design for almost 10 years. I've switched to being a full-time author, and I'm here to show you how you can make sure that if you are going to use Canva to create your book cover, that it won't look like you just pulled whatever template was on there that you thought looked good and pulled it off and said, great, I've got a book cover and I'm ready to go. So the first thing that I want to point out is that not every book cover template in Canva is the correct size. I noticed that as I was going through and looking at things. So you want to make sure that you have a book cover that is 1600 pixels by 200 or by 2560 pixels. So you can have a minimum size of 1000 by 625 pixels. I would not suggest that. I would suggest that you go to here and that in Canva, you create your own template and you say custom template and you want it to be this size. That way, you know that you have a cover that's going to work. Similarly, go on to Kobo if you're publishing on Kobo and make sure that this is a correct size. Make sure that this is the right size if you're publishing directly to Barnes & Noble or if you're going through draft to digital. Whatever it is, make sure you're getting the correct size from the publishing group that you're going through before you decide to come over here and say, in Canva, I'm going to go through all these templates because there's tons of them, and I'm going to pick my favorite one and I'm going to go with it. So there are so many templates here, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons. And you really can pick one and then put your own title on and put who it's by, like put your author name on, and be done. And that is an option. The only issue with that is that anybody else can do it too. So there's a very real possibility that you pick your cover through here. All you do is put your name on and then your author name, and someone else does the exact same thing. So keep that in mind. If you are going to go with one of these, I highly suggest picking different fonts at the bare minimum. I very much suggest choosing to add things, or if you can removing things. Some of these are pictures. Like if I were to click here on this one, it's going to tell me, let's see, I'm going to say choose this template. It pops up, and I bet most of this, so some of this I can move. So I can move the shine, but this image is the way it is. I can't change anything about the image. So what that does is that anybody else who uses this image as the background is also stuck with whatever this image is. This is the image that the designer has created. So we want to make sure if we're going to choose something like this, that we're adding elements to it, that we're shifting it, that we're changing it, we're doing things to try and help make it less likely that someone else will have the exact same book cover that you have because they've also gone through Canva. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to open up the first cover I created because I've made two covers to kind of illustrate how this works. So this is the first one I've made. And these are not books I've written. These are literally just covers I made. So I went through, I'm going to right click here so I can get layers open. So this is one of your best friends if you're using Canva to create your book cover, is knowing how to get to the layers. So I've right clicked on the image and I can right click anywhere on the design. I've gone down to layer, over here to show layers. I'm going to click on that. This shows me all of my layers, and this is going to help me kind of show you what I've done. So the original image right here, I've actually made it bigger, as you can see around this. I've made it bigger. And here I can zoom in. And I can also make it bigger. Like I can do that, and I can make it even larger. Whoop. And you could see that there was a filter on that when it went wonky for a minute. So I'm going to undo that and make it back to the original size that I had it. One of the biggest things that you're going to want to do when you are designing in Canva is you're going to feel like you are boxed in and that everything needs to stay in this box. That is not true. It's what most designers do when they're first learning, is they feel trapped a little bit by the box of the design or whatever the template of the design is going to be. And one of the first things that they teach you is to not do that, to look for ways to be off of the box, to give a sense of space, to make it look like there's more going on than there actually is. Because this book cover stops right here. This is where it stops. It stops on this edge and it doesn't go any further. But by increasing the size of the picture and by making some of these elements that I've added to the image go off of the image, and it looks like there's more. I've made it feel bigger than it actually is. I took the image and I went through, let's see, we'll click on it here and I'll show you. Let's go. I need to open it up through here. Layers, there we go. I'm going to come back to here. And so now I've got it open and I'm going to go back into edit so that you can see what I've done. So let's come over here to filters. So up here is what the image looked like without any filter on it. And it's kind of small, and I understand that. And this is one of the downsides of Canva, is that it is very difficult to look at, to be able to go back and forth between things, to be able to see the image without all the stuff I've done to it, and then go right back to seeing the image with all the stuff I've done to it. That being said, it still gives me the ability to show you that things can change dramatically. So this woman up here in the top is holding a pink rose and she's in a pink dress and she's got blonde hair. And the background is this fun light blue with, or slate blue, I guess, with these gold accents. There's a lot going on there that is very bright and happy. And I came down here and I picked this poster intensity. And if I bring it down, it can make it look a little bit more like it originally did. So you can start to see the pink in her dress and her hair goes back. But if I bring this back up, now I've added that sort of sinister look, this little darker look. This suggests that this book isn't going to be all hearts and roses. Like this Alice in Wonderland retelling is going to be a little bit more mad, to say the least, because that's what I'm going for here. I wanted to play off of the idea of the mad for her hatter, which I have not written this book, but I thought of the title and I thought it was fun. So I've played around with the filtering for the image to ensure that it's made things a little different. Now, the other thing that I've done here is I wanted to make sure that this rose all the way through is red. And so this is the cover that I did choose to use what's called the magic edit on here. So what I've done is I clicked on the rose and I told it that I wanted the rose to be green because the edit that the filter that I've put on this has flipped red and green. That's part of why her hair has gone kind of a strawberry blonde color, is because any of the yellow in her blonde hair that had enough red in it, or had enough green in it, it shifted it, all of those hues to red. So technically this is using AI. Just so you're aware. So if you click on the magic edit, you have started using AI in your image. Now, also, that is something that does have to be checked when you are doing in KDP, when you're publishing in KDP. Amazon does care and they do want to know. So keep that in mind if that's something you're doing. I wanted to show that that was an option, and so I chose to do it here. You might choose the AI is not for you, and that's perfectly fine. But when I don't leave this image all as it is, and I choose to adjust and move and add filters, and I blow it up a little bit so it's bigger than the original image was, that makes a big difference. Now, the other thing I've done here, let me pull up the layers again, is that I've added this background. I've added to it. So I've got these clocks here. They're technically stopwatches, but I thought they looked a little bit like pocket watches. I will say I only have the free version of Canva. So I specifically am only using things that I can have on the free version. there are some really cool things you can use if you're on the paid version. And so keep that in mind. If this is the way that you're going to design your book cover, it might be worth paying for the subscription for a month or two so that you can get what you want and make it the way you want it. Or maybe you just pay for the whole year and call it good, whatever it is that you're going to do. But this makes the background look a little bit more the way I want it to and a little less flat. So I'm adding some depth and some mystery to it. Things that I wish Canva could do but can't. And if you have the paid version, this would work. You'd be able to do this. I don't have the paid version. So let me come into here to layers again. So what you could do if you had the paid version is you could put 2 copies of this picture down. And then one of them would be here in the back. And then you would put all of these elements, all of these graphic elements on top of it. The next one would go right here. Or I guess it would go right here. It would go above because I'll talk about this in a minute, but it would go above all of my elements. And I would do a background removal so that I could have 2 of my leading lady here. And so this model would then be able to stack on top of herself, and I'd line it up exactly right. So the model and the rows would line up perfectly. But one of the things I have here, and I can move it to show you, is I have a rectangle that is the same size as my cover, and it is a black, it's almost black. It's not quite black. I actually took a color swatch. I chose a color swatch off of this blue here, and then I made it very, very dark. So it's almost black, but it's the black that matches the background here. And then I've gone through into the transparency and I've made it 30. So what this does is it darkens it significantly. It adds to that mystery. And so it gives that sense that we don't quite know what's going on here. Now, the nice thing is if I did have the paid version, I could have put this girl in front of it. So what you see right here, the way she looks here, I could have really made her stand out by putting her on top of this, this transparency that I've got going to help add some mystery and darken up the background. Those are some things to think about because that can make this a lot better. Now, the other thing that I've done, and I'm going to open layers back up again so it's easier to show you. All of my letters are individual elements. I did not say, I didn't come in here into text and say add a heading and then started typing the whole thing. I have gone through and each individual element or each individual letter is its own element here. And what that does is it allows me to play very specifically with my typography. What makes a Canva cover usually look homemade and like the author did it themselves and didn't do it well, a lot of it has to do with typography and not having the control that you can have over typography in other programs like Photoshop or programs like Inkscape or Illustrator or Affinity. All of those programs give you a lot of control over your typography. And so what I've been able to do is with each letter being an individual element, I can twist it, I can turn it, I can make it be whatever I need it to be in order to fit the cover the way I want. So you'll notice this R in Hatter. I have all of these letters slowly falling away because in my mind, this book, or at least the character, the Mad Hatter, is a little mad. And so I wanted his name to slowly be falling away. I wanted all of this to be very connected and very obvious that it went together, but this one is where I wanted things to fall apart. And so you can do that in Canva. It's not easy, but you can do it. And what it requires is that each letter has to be its own element so that you have total control over just that letter. The nice thing too here is if I decided, you know what, the R, I also want to change its outline. I can drop the outline down quite a bit. And now that I'm looking at it, I should have done this on all of them. But I got frustrated because I saw something that said that you couldn't create a good book cover in Canva, and it made me angry. And so here we are, because a lot of what I do is out of spite. So that being said, my really quick and dirty throwing covers together because I needed to make a video because I was angry. But by making each letter individual, it gives me the ability to play with things. It gives me the ability to say, you know what? Actually, I like this better and I want it to be this way. And you know, this it really actually needs to be upside down. And it can be upside down, and I can move it, and now I've got an even more interesting thing. So there's a lot of options that open up to you when you choose to make sure that every single letter is its own individual element, and that it's not all caught up with the rest of the letters and having to fit with each letter. Because I wouldn't be able to get this effect if each letter was, or if I had written the word out entirely. About the only thing you can do is you can adjust the curvature. So I could make a very perfect curve along a perfect circle. And that's the extent of what I could do with this. So this gives you kind of an idea of how you can get a photo manipulated cover without having Photoshop and without having any other paid resource. So I want to show you another one here. I was looking at options for illustrated covers because I know for some people that is a much better option for their cover. And obviously all of this is going to look like romance novels. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Oops, I clicked too soon. There we go. So one of the things that I've done here that I wanted to talk about is this background is actually a photo. So this is a photo. And I've, again, blown it up. So if you can see down here, it's kind of small, and I'm sorry about that. But if you see down here, you can see that this was a photo, and the mountain range is actually kind of long. And then there's a lot of sunrise and a lot, or right here, and then there's a lot of blue up here. And so I've blown this up. I've cut the blue off entirely. I don't want the blue. And I've put the mountains right there. Also, the couple. You can see how big I've blown up the couple. So the couple is an illustrated image that is here on Canva. The sunrise, however, is a photo. And by blowing it up, I can make it look like it was illustrated because I'm taking out the elements of it that make it obvious that it's a photo. And then the other thing I've done is I've taken, again, another rectangle with a transparency. And this one's a really light transparency. And I've lined it up. You can see here, I've lined it up so that I don't have a stark line. The line actually happens in the darkness of the couple that's here. I've also made the color of the couple match the color of the mountain range. So if I come here to the color, it's this color right here. And what I did was I came here and I used the selector tool and I went over the mountains. And once I was over the mountains, I clicked OK, and it gave me the color to match what the mountain range was here. So it I've tricked the eye into thinking this is an illustration, and that all I've done is adjusted coloring behind it, but it's not. There's one more thing I want to show you here. If you're curious, this is a neon effect, and I've just dropped the intensity down immensely. But I wanted to show you the other thing I've done. So a lot of people don't know this about Canva. If you hold the Control button down on your keyboard and then scroll in, I can zoom in really, 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 really close and get really close. And these little star elements, when you're up close next to them, they don't necessarily look like they are stars. Like they kind of, I mean, they kind of do. They're little starbursts, but they look very calculated, if that makes sense. But when I zoom out, you can see them, but so now you know what they are. But if I zoom out, now they don't look like I have made little stars everywhere that are exactly the same shape. Those starbursts blend into the background and they help create that sense that there is a twilight, or not a twilight, a dawn here that's coming in, that the sun's coming up and that we are pushing out the starlight. So that is something that I think is really worth knowing, because the original size of these, let me see if I can get back to it. So the original size of these, if I blow it up, is something like this. Like it's massive. And so that doesn't look like stars, but oh, there we go. That does. Having it really tiny and in the background looks like stars. So I just wanted to show you there are things you can do. There are tools you can use. And again, here too, every single one of these letters is its own letter, its own thing. It's not a one word written through. These are things you can do to help. Something else that I've done here, this C is one font and all of these other letters are another. When you choose to make sure that your fonts and your letters are all individual letters, it makes a huge difference as well. So this is really a quick video. And like I said, a big part of it was made out of spite because I was frustrated that someone had said you could not make a book cover in Canva that didn't look like it came out of Canva. But be aware that you have tools at your disposal, even in the free version of Canva, that will allow you to make high quality looking book covers. But it comes back to understanding design and thinking outside of the box a little bit, thinking as a designer when you're using it. And I have a whole slew of videos in the Cover Design Toolbox playlist that can help you start thinking that way and teach you how to think as a designer, so that as you're going through and using Canva to create your book cover, it makes all the difference. So I hope that was helpful. I'm really happy that these turned out nice. I don't think I'll ever write the books for them, but I wanted you to be able to see that good covers can be made in Canva. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps other authors to find it. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. I post videos about once a month now, usually on Wednesdays, about cover design, discovery writing, and self-publishing on a shoestring budget. I hope to see you again soon.